Alright, we're doing tacos al pastor again. It's pretty much the exact same process. We're gonna make a few small tweaks. If you haven't seen the other video, tacos al pastor is thinly sliced pork shoulder or pork butt. And if you don't know, the pork shoulder is actually just another part of the butt of the pork. So thinly sliced pork shoulder, you can buy a full-size pork butt and slice it thin on your own. Walmart actually has what they call pork steaks, which is slices from the pork shoulder. There's bones in here, so I'm going to cut those out in a minute. But tacos al pastor is essentially thinly sliced pork butt or shoulder, put on a rotisserie with al pastor sauce and some pineapple, and then as it cooks during the rotation, you slice it off and it really comes out amazing. So what we're gonna do is we're actually cooking this tomorrow, but I'm gonna cut this up today. We'll marinate it overnight, and then tomorrow we'll pack it up on the rotisserie and we'll go ahead and start cooking. So we're gonna put this aside for now because I don't need this. This is the marinade we're using. I got this off Amazon. It's amazing. It's cheap and it's amazing. Al pastor is a pretty complicated sauce. So you can make it yourself. I don't have that kind of time, and I'm not really looking to dry out peppers and grind them up and reduce them. And so I bought this pre-packaged sauce. It's amazing. So this is what we're gonna use. But for now, let's just cut this pork up. We'll cut the bones out. And then what we're gonna do is try to make these pieces as even as possible for the rotisserie. All right, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut these into even pieces. So you see this is kind of janky and it's not even. We're gonna cut these into pieces as even as possible. Honestly, probably about the size of the bottom of this pineapple. So we're cut it up nice and even so that when it goes on the skewer, it's as uniform as possible. So when it rotates, we don't have some pieces burning up while other pieces are still raw. So we'll cut this up, nice even shapes. Don't worry about the small pieces. We'll still put those on the skewer. It's the ones that are too big that might be a problem. Once I'm done with that, we'll put them in some Ziploc bags with our marinade, and then we're good to go. All right, it is now Monday. So on Sunday, which was yesterday, we cut up the pork, put it in our al pastor marinade, and put it in the fridge. So now we're going to go ahead. I've lit my fire. We're going to build out our rotisserie and get this cooking. So if you see here, I have a divider in my ash basket. So this is the Kick ash basket with the divider. This is helpful because when you're rotisserieing meat, you want to give it a break, right? You don't want it to be full heat the whole time. It'll burn, it'll cook too quickly, and the inside won't get cooked, only the outside will. So you want to bank your coals to the back. If you don't have a divider, if you do have a divider, do what I did here. I did a little more than 50-50 just because this isn't, it does cook quick and we're going to shave it as we go. So I'd like a little more heat on the bottom for that. And just last quick tip here before we go inside and start building our rotisserie skewer is when you set up your JoeTisserie, if you look here, it's a square. I like to line that up, so I like to turn it on and let it line up so that when I'm putting my rotisserie on, I'm not fiddling with it, right? It just slides right into the square and then we're good to go. So I'm gonna close this lid. Our goal here is about 500 degrees. So that means bottom wide open, and I'm probably gonna leave the top wide open for a while, and then maybe I'll make some adjustments on top if I need to. But this doesn't need to be precise because as the outer bits cook, we're just gonna shave them and move on. So let's go inside and build the rotisserie. All right, let's go ahead and build our skewers. So the first thing we're gonna do is cut this pineapple up because we're using thick pineapple slices as the bookends on the skewer. So we'll do a slice, all of our pork, and then a slice of pineapple to hold that all together. So the first thing we're doing is going to cut this pineapple, and then we're going to take our pork, which has been marinating overnight in these Ziploc bags, and we'll load that up on the skewer, trying to make the pieces as even as possible without, big jagged ones hanging out. The small pieces we'll shove in between, and then the large pieces, we'll spread them throughout. we've got our rotisserie built, so we'll go ahead and go put this on in a minute, just waiting for that fire to get a little hotter. If you notice, we just did 2 slices of pineapple, 1 on each end, and then we cinched it as tight as possible. The mistake we made last time, it was a little loose, and we put a pineapple in the middle. The pineapple in the middle will add some flavor and it's nice, but the problem is when you start slicing, there's a pineapple in the way. So what we want is just be able to slice clean meat, slice clean meat, slice clean meat. So we're gonna go ahead, we'll get this on in a minute. I'm just waiting for some of that smoke to clear to get a little hotter. And then once it starts rotating, we'll check on it every 10, 15 minutes or so and cut off the pieces that are done. Okay, we are at 500 degrees. So let's go ahead and get this rotisserie on. Alright, so as this meat cooks, we'll slice it, we'll slide that accessory rack underneath, and the sliced pieces will fall right into this container here. So we're just going to let this go. I'm going to close the lid, we'll let it cook, and then like I said, as it cooks we'll slice it off. This time I'm actually going to use an electric carving knife, and that should help slice right through. Last time we struggled with a regular knife, and then we used the shears, which the shears worked really well, but we'll use an electric carving knife this time and see how that goes. So we're going to close this lid and come check every 10-15 minutes or so, and if any pieces are done, those will come right off. Okay, it's been about 10-15 minutes maybe we're checking on it. You see there's a couple black pieces, but for the most part I don't think it's necessarily ready to cut yet, so we'll let it keep going. Look for a little more uniform, some charring there, and then we'll start to carve it up. Maybe 5 more minutes. Alright, I think we're ready to do our first carve. Yes. So, we're just going to slide this underneath, put it right on that accessory rack, and let's cut. Alright, so we got a good first shave. The first round is always a little janky because it's not necessarily formed yet. We still have some bigger pieces over here. But as we continue to chip away at this, it'll start to get more and more uniform and it'll come off a little easier. So we'll close the lid, come back in 10 more minutes and get the next round. Alright, it's been a few minutes. We'll do another round. If you look, what's nice too is as this pan gets underneath, the pan gets very hot, and that'll actually crisp some of this up. That'll crisp some of this up as well. So let's just do another round. Start shaving. All right, next round. We got a clean tray here, and that is because you know, the other one's starting to fill up, so I don't want stuff to fall out when I lift it, and I also don't want the ones that are already cooked to burn because they're just in the tray and they keep going back in. So we'll use a fresh tray and we'll transfer. The other thing to take note of is when you're cutting, don't cut too deep because, you know, and I did a few times, if you cut too deep, that pork's not cooked yet, so you will cut into raw pork. So you got to really just do the outer layer of the burnt parts. All right, we're chugging along. A couple rounds left, and then we should be all set. Just a quick tip too, if you do cut a piece that's a little too raw, just leave it in this pan, right? The pan's above the fire, it's cooking, and it'll actually cook while it's in there. Alright, let me show you, we're down to our last few shaves. You see this really start to take a normal shape as you cut it. So we're just going to let it keep going. There's a few pieces that might be a little raw, so you just got to let it keep going and keep shaving. Once there's only a tiny bit left, then obviously we'll pull it off. Let me show you how much we've gotten so far. This is a pretty big tinfoil tray, and it's basically full. So that 8 pounds of meat, this is going to feed a lot of people because keep in mind, it is tacos. So we'll keep shaving. I'll show you how much we fill this up with, and then at the end of the day, you can make tacos any way you want to. So what I like to do is take the pineapple that's cooked here, as well as the pineapple that the leftover we have inside. Chop it up nice and thin, and then we'll use some flour tortillas. Put our pork on, put some of the pineapple on. If you want to do some sour cream, some people do some nice little glaze. However you want to dress your tacos, you can dress your tacos. But this is how we get that delicious meat to go inside. All right, this is done. I don't think I'll be able to shave much more out of there, so I'm going to take it off. We'll bring it inside, and I'll just cut it up inside. If there happens to be a couple of raw bits still, I'll put them in the pan and bring the pan back out here. But it should be cooked pretty thoroughly. We went through all of that charcoal for the most part, so make sure you load yours up, depending how much meat you have on here. Overall, it's pretty easy. It is time consuming, meaning you do have to be out here and cutting as you go. If you leave it, it will burn. But it's a great cook. It comes out amazing, and it's a ton of meat. So we're using it for tacos, but obviously you can use that chopped up al pastor for anything you want. And just a couple of quick tips. I don't know if I touched on them earlier. If you cut too early and some pieces are raw, just leave them in the pan while the pan is in here, and it'll cook. You'll hear it sizzle. It'll cook in there, and it'll be okay. Also, cut the loose bits. Get it as uniform as possible early. That'll help with the cutting process. I've tried this with a knife. Maybe if I have a crazy sharp knife, it would go well, but a knife is pretty difficult. That carving, the electric carving one I just used was really easy. But and the last thing is, when you get the rod ready, the rotisserie ready, put it in here first and line up center, then load it up, because what you don't want to do is have these prongs here all the way to the side, and then the rod doesn't fit, and now it's hot as hell and you're messing with it. So put the rod in here, get the prong like about here, tighten it, load your meat up, and then hold it over and get it ready. And make sure you push these as tight together as possible, because that'll help with carving. If these claws are sliding or it's loose, then the meat will move and you won't be able to just slice right through it. So I appreciate the watch. If you have any questions, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe if you can, please. I'll leave links in the description for the sauce I used, or the marinade. It's amazing. It's from Amazon. It's like $8. It's very good. It's making your own. If you have that kind of technique and skill, go for it. It's a ton of work if not. But all in all, I appreciate the view, and we're gonna go eat. Thanks.